Well, hello once again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the 19th Hole Podcast for Golfers. I'm your host, Dennis Silvers, and it is rainy. It is cold here in Las Vegas, and it's not the greatest of weather to play golf, but yet I have friends that play golf in this kind of weather, and I don't know how they do it, but, as you know, I'm a hot weather guy, so I'm waiting for the summer, which is going to be a little bit, but you know what? It is what it is, and it is winter, so that's what we expect. In the meantime, we are in the warmth and comfort of the beautiful new studios here at Rigel Studios in the heart of Las Vegas. So we're glad to be indoors for sure. The PGA Tour season is just about to start this week in Hawaii. I call it a paid vacation for these guys. But, the tour is back on again for another year. So, of course, we look forward to that. And, of course, with the majors coming up again. And we've got a great guest for you for this show. We're very lucky to have him because the guy is busy and knows a lot about what's going on in the world of golf. Let me tell you a bit about Joe Passov. Joe is an award-winning journalist who's been writing about golf and golf travel since way back in 1991. Joe is also very well known as Travelin' Joe, with more than 2,000 articles published in nearly 100 publications in America, the UK, and Asia. He was formerly the editor-in-chief of Links magazine and was the co-host of his own podcast called Backspin, the Golf Show, which was on Fox Sports in Phoenix, which, of course, is in Arizona, as you know. He has also authored 5 golf books, which is tremendous. Joe has won numerous awards and recognitions, both for his writing abilities and his contributions to the game. So, again, we're very, very lucky to have a gentleman of his stature again on the show. So let's welcome him right now and bring him up on camera. Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show and spending a little bit of time with us. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Dennis, well, thank you for having me. I got to say that the introduction reminds me of Eastlake at the Tour Championship one year when Phil Mickelson was playing with Tiger Woods. And they introduced Tiger with everything he's won, and Phil jumps in and says, "All right, enough already." So
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
No,
that was very cool. That was very cool. Joe, you got involved in the game of golf, and secondly, who got you involved in the game of golf, and how did that turn out to become your desire to become a golf journalist? And why didn't you want to practice law? For those people that don't know, Joe also has a law degree. I believe he graduated from ASU, was it, Joe? And went on to law school and got a law degree. So it was either golf writing or practicing law. How did you make that decision?
Dennis, now you're taking me back a lot of years, but the short version is, I think I wanted to like the idea of being a lawyer. Kind of had that plan since I was, 12 years old. And then the realities of practicing law are somewhat different maybe than the television or film version goes. And along the way, like anybody else, where we play sports, we follow sports,
right,
whatever it is. I started more so as a competitive tennis player.
Interesting.
And but we had access to a lot of golf courses, and I played a little golf as a kid. And I think the thing I found fascinating about golf, where it completely engulfed my tennis background, was the variety
Yeah.
involved in
Yeah.
golf.
Yeah.
I love golf history. I love following what was happening on the television screen, but I also love the fact that you could go walk in those famous footsteps.
Hmm.
That if you paid the money, you could go play Pebble Beach, where Jack Nicklaus had won the US Open, and,
Right.
Later Tiger Woods and so forth. So then I got fascinated just by how one golf course was so different from another. Unlike tennis courts, which had a few different surfaces, but it was all the same dimension.
Right.
78 by 36 or 78 by 27 if you wanted the singles court. But tennis golf courses, wow. This one was 7,200 yards and wide open. This one played in the mountains and was only 6,700 and narrow. This one played by the ocean. This one played,
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with the variety
Yeah.
inherent to the playing surfaces themselves, and just, everything else about golf kind of took over for me.
Yeah, no,
So,
I understand that. Let me jump ahead a little bit and
yep.
ask you this question. How do you find the information that you need, particularly when it comes to the history of a golf course? Who do you ask? What do you research? How do you do that when you travel around the world to a course you've never been to and really don't know anybody per se? How do you find the nuggets, if you will, on the history of the golf course? Who do you go to?
Well, obviously, in the last 25 years, websites have become really, really useful,
Yeah.
because inevitably, at a good private club, but even a nice public course, you have locals, you have players that have played it for a
Yeah.
long time that
Yeah.
could document some of the changes, and it's been fun to put those down in writing, as I'm doing currently with several club history books. But to go off and play a golf course, understand who the architect was. That's become more and more popular over the last few years. And then for anecdotes tied to the club, if you can't find them on the website, then shoot, start with the head professional, the director of golf, the
Right.
general manager, and
Right.
invariably they know who the members are, or who the regular players are, that could
Yeah.
tell you a little bit about some of the interesting stuff that's happened
Yeah.
at that golf
Yeah.
course over the
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also became very fond, which I am, of golf course architecture. And I love that. I love having golf course designers, architects on the show to pick their brain. How did you envision this? And why did you shape this hole a certain way? And why did you add a bunker here? And I love that stuff. And I'm glad you were on it, because I just think it's fascinating. Anyway, you were chairman of the panel at Golf Magazine that ranks the world's top 100 courses. Very cool. So let me ask you this, and I think a number of our viewers may not know, what is the procedure, Joe, for ranking a golf course? What do you look for? What do you do? What's important? What's not very important?
Sure. Well, now just about everybody ranks golf courses. And because of the proliferation of social media, you can pop on X or Instagram or whatever you feel like and say, here's my top 10 or my top 25
Right.
or not
Right.
my top 50, and get a whole community out there to agree or disagree with you. But it's certainly one of the most fun grill room exercises that we can all have, is debating which course is better and why is it better.
Yeah, I bet.
So, from a broader perspective, about the publications that typically have ranked golf courses, and those are even now kind of the only ones that do it. The major U.S. publications and those in the U.K., they all do it differently from each other. And two of them in the U.S. kind of have, it would be Golf Digest and Golf Week, have a specified set of criteria.
Right.
Take these 6 or 8 or 10 items and evaluate them each course. You subject every one of those criteria to. At Golf Magazine, and I've been on and voted on all 3 of those panels. So I began to understand the differences. At Golf Magazine, it was decided long ago, George Pepper, who was then their editor-in-chief, that maybe there's a different way of doing that, and that is not by having individual criteria, and rather let the person who's experienced enough, well-traveled enough, to make up his or her own mind on what they should value in a great golf course. So there's certainly arguments to be made for both ways of doing it.
Yeah.
And, I used to come back to the restaurant idea. When you sit down and you evaluate a meal, you don't, it's the same thing with a movie. You don't go through the individual criteria and then add them up and decide what was important. You say, you factor those all in. Well, service was good. The ambiance was great.
Right.
It was, and then you say it was a great meal, or that it was a disappointing meal, but you don't necessarily say, well, I give the service, 3 out of 4,
Mm-hmm.
and that knocked it down a peg.
Right.
And the same thing with a movie. It's, do you rank it cinematography, lighting,
Right.
Direction? No, you just say, hey, that was a good movie.
Right.
So to each his own, but I certainly respect and also participated in those other ways of using individual criteria to analyze it. It gives it a little more accountability. But then, I would say, how can you only give 10 out of 10 to Cypress Point or Pebble Beach for aesthetics? That's got to be like a 17 out of 10, So that, and that's the kind of the debate that you run into in terms of how you evaluate a golf course for ranking purposes.
It's fascinating to me, Joe, and it's probably come across your mind, how people perceive a golf course in different ways. And do you think, Joe, it has something to do with their abilities as a player? An elite player would look at a course differently than a guy that's a 15 handicap. Not that there's anything wrong with 15 handicaps, but do you think that has something to do with it, how they perceive it?
Completely, Dennis. I mean, we're human.
Yeah.
There has to be a little subjectivity involved.
Absolutely.
No matter how you look at it. But I learned so many lessons over the years about that. And I think about really good players, let's call them single digit handicappers,
Mm-hmm.
4 or less, scratch players, tour
Right.
pros, whatever you label, a good player or really, really exceptional player. I think that player wants to get on a golf course and how he or she evaluates it and says, does this golf course stimulate me from start to finish?
Yeah.
Does it test me in the different parts of the game where I have developed my skills so that I want to be asked to work the ball in this direction or that, or to flight the ball a couple of different directions, to manage with long shots and a good test of some longer clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, for a 10 handicap or a 15 handicap who happens to be astute at golf course architecture, maybe that test hole after hole isn't as important. Maybe visuals and beauty, aesthetics are a little more important than is every hole a strong test.
Right.
And so forth. So again, I don't think one is right or wrong. I just think I used to love the great Jim Murray, the LA Times sports writer.
Yeah.
He described Arnold Palmer jumping onto the first tee of a golf course like a boxer getting into the ring. And you think about Arnie doing battle with the golf course. And for those of us who don't play like Arnie or anybody else that's that good, no, it's not a battle per se. It's more of a appreciation
Right.
in its visuals, in its variety.
Right.
And so I think they're just different ways of looking at it, and neither one of them are
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, no, that's very well said, Joe. When you were rating, what was important to you? Was it the shape of the hole? Was it the greens? Was it the hazards? What did you look for?
Well, I would actually factor all of those things in to a package called variety. And in my estimation, in looking at a golf course, I don't want any one factor to predominate, because then a golf course and it as a test of golf,
Yeah.
for the enjoyment factor, it's just a little too one-dimensional, which still could mean it's a great golf course. It just wouldn't jump into the elite.
Right.
So if you take what was generally accepted as the best golf course in the rankings by just about every publication, which is New Jersey's Pine Valley.
Pine Valley.
Okay, well, there's forced carries almost throughout the round. All right, does that seem a little one-dimensional? Yes, it does. But the fairways are pretty generous. It isn't like you have to thread the needle. There's just that inevitable pressure for you to put the ball in play, even though there's width. And then the variety comes from the different length of the holes,
Right.
the different width of the holes, even though it's pretty much force carry, force carry. So the beauty, the purity, the variety of hole lengths, that outweighed the fact that otherwise it had that one dimension of force carry, force carry.
Yeah.
So in the end, for me and for others, it was that test that when you got through playing the golf course, how easily could you remember the holes in order? You know, 1 through, oh yeah, I remember what number 2 did and what number 3 looked like and number 4. And then how much do you want to go out and play it again? Because there's a lot of great golf courses out there that are just, okay, I'm glad I checked that off, but I don't really care if I come play it again. It was just too hard or too one-dimensional or something.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's how I would look at it, is what did it throw at you during the round to where you can remember it really well, and how much did it entice you to say, I want to go play that again?
That's a great point. And I'm still kicking myself. I got invited to play Pine Valley and was all excited, all ready to go. I think I came down with the flu, and I, unfortunately had to cancel the trip. And I said, I'm available whenever again. But yeah, it's kind of a bucket list thing for me. I'd love to go play it and experience it for myself. But yeah.
Well, a couple years ago, I had the chance to interview Tiger Woods. Was lucky enough to do that a couple of times. And I asked him what's at the top of his list of the golf courses he had never played. And he said Pine Valley. So, Dennis, that's another something you have in common with Tiger.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. You're the perfect guy to ask this to, Joe. What would you advise to somebody making their first golf trip overseas, another country, where to go to play golf? What part of the world would you recommend to that person as their first foray, and why would you make that recommendation?
Well, the world is a big place.
Yeah.
And, I would find out from that person in terms of their interest. Is this someone who absolutely loves golf and at least is a decent player in reasonable physical condition? You got to do Scotland first. You have to do Scotland because everything else about this game that we love started and derived from Scotland.
Yes.
And specifically, pretty much the old course at St. Andrews, a public golf course, but not the easiest one to get onto. But to soak up the atmosphere in St. Andrews, hopefully you get a chance to play the old course. But even if you play a couple of the others, walk around the old course, which you can do, then you get an appreciation for how deeply embedded golf is in the culture of Scottish people.
True.
And what it's meant, and the fact that this is it. This is where it all comes from, and will help you love and appreciate the game of golf even more.
Yes, that's a great point. I've been lucky enough to be there a couple times and play the old course a couple of times. Second time, and actually I got hailed on. The weather turned, but that's all part of it. And I agree with you. Scotland is. I would tell somebody, go there first. They've got wonderful, wonderful golf courses there, all through Scotland. Yeah. Let me ask you this before we take our first break, Joe. Do you think there might be an overload of golf information today? And what I mean by that, you've got instructional videos all over. You've got golf magazines, as you're aware of. You've got golf books. You've got DVDs. You've got YouTube. You've got online lessons. Do you think that might be a little bit of an overload for somebody that wants to get better or learn the game?
I don't dispute that there are a lot of sources for golf information of every kind.
Yeah.
And let's lump in something related near and dear to Las Vegas, of course, is the legalized gambling, that's associated with golf, where you really need to know every scrap of information, that you get your hands on. It was funny back in the day, and I say, early day, 80s and early 90s. I heard from a reputable golf editor-in-chief, that they deliberately used to do conflicting instruction stories from one issue to the next, because there's not a one size that fits all. And they knew that maybe if this one didn't work in the July issue, this one might work for the August issue.
Right.
And that people would keep buying in the hopes that their golf games would come.
That's interesting.
Dennis, very quickly, I would say for folks like you and me, I think it just is a sensory overload. But for the young generation who are they love it, being bombarded from all sources, maybe they can filter it and handle it a little better than I can.
Yeah, no, that's very true. But I point out sometimes that you could pick up a particular golf publications and you could learn how to draw the ball 4 different ways in that one publication with the different instructors that they have. I'm not saying they're wrong, but you're going, you're standing on the tee. All right, what do I do now? I read this and I read this and stuff. And I think for the guy just coming up and learning the game, it might be a problem.
Well, golf magazines and online instruction are much less expensive than taking lessons.
Oh, yeah.
And if that's the best you can do, hopefully find something that works.
Yeah.
But if you have the money, go see a pro and find somebody you trust that can help nurture your game to get it to where you want it to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. All right, Joe, we're going to step away. We're going to take our first short break. When we come back, we will have a lot more with our very special guest, award-winning golf journalist, Joe Passov. Stay with us. We are going to be back right after this. Stay with us. All right, welcome back, everybody, to our continuation of the 19th Hole podcast for golfers. I'm Dennis Silvers, having a great conversation with Joe Passov. I've got a little house cleaning to do. Last week, or a couple of weeks ago, I was very fortunate enough the people at Greenwood Golf sent me a beautiful, beautiful putter, and I gave out the incorrect, if you can believe it, I was wrong, gave out the incorrect web address. I kept saying greenwoodputters.com, greenwoodgolf.com. Check them out. Their putters are beautiful. They're unique, and I just absolutely love mine. I take it out to play. Everybody compliments me on the aesthetics. It's helped me make some putts. But yeah, get the right website address, greenwoodgolf.com. Anyway, back with our special guest with Joe. We talked a little bit about this the other day when we talked about coming on the show. You live in Phoenix. You are, and for great reason, you are a big fan of the waste management event. And I kind of said it's more than a tournament. They get a great field, number one, but it's more than a tournament. It's really a happening there. Why do you think that is, Joe? They play a great golf course, great field. They make it a party with all the stuff going on in that par three. Why do you think it's turned into an event rather than just another PGA Tour stop?
Well, Dennis, thanks. I'm a waste management, or they call it now, WM Phoenix Open. And I've seen my share. I think if I had the exact answer, then I would be able to tell other tournament directors how to achieve that. But no, it's something special, and you hit on it, that it is a community event as much as it is a golf tournament. Mm-hmm. So I've now gone to the Phoenix Open in 6 different decades. Since I first saw Ben Crenshaw win the tournament in 1979.
Wow.
So, 33 in all as of last year. Look forward to 34th coming up. But that's really what it's all about. It's a tournament with so much history, dating to the early 1930s. So you start with the fact that it's just been going so long. Second, you look at it as Phoenix was a small little place back in the day. And to have the top pros gather, the Byron Nelsons and Ben Hogans, even before there was air conditioning here, and they would come out for a winter tournament and they'd play in Tucson, and then they would go to California and so forth. But the momentum began to build that this was a reliable place that would pay some money for these guys to do this. Once Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Arizona started to really grow, the tournament grew along with it. Yeah. And eventually it became too big for its permanent host, Phoenix Country Club, which is still a marvelous old club and golf course, which hosts the Charles Schwab Championship on the Champions Tour. So instead, founding fathers, the sponsoring Civic Thunderbirds Group, found a new site in Scottsdale, paired with the PGA Tour for a TPC facility, and things went berserk. Mm-hmm. Because now you could accommodate literally hundreds of thousands of fans during a week, even during a single day. Tom Weiskopf and Jay Morrish built a golf course with a ton of drama factored in at the end, where so many things could happen. And then you had kind of the good fortune of having some Arizona State people like Phil Mickelson play well, win the tournament on several occasions, and combine it with this party atmosphere. So Friday afternoon, you had a band playing just off the 9th hole. Eventually, the PGA Tour pros like John Daly and Payne Stewart, Mark Lai, some of those folks said, hey, this is fun. Can we join in, sing a few songs, play a little bit with the band? And then it became this is so big, we got to move it across the street. And instead, they got big name acts to come play at what's called the Bird's Nest. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And then even people that had no interest in golf whatsoever wanted to come to the Phoenix Open. And the best example I can give of that's why it happened, because it's fun, because it's a party atmosphere.
Yeah.
There happens to be golf going on. Maybe my favorite story came from past champion Kenny Perry, who came into town and on Tuesday of the tournament went to get a haircut, and the young woman who was cutting his hair, it started up a conversation, and she said, "What, are you in for the Phoenix Open?" He said, "Yes, I am." He said, do you go to the Phoenix Open?" And she said, "Oh, we love the Phoenix Open. We go every night." So that was the quintessential. It doesn't have to be just a daytime aspect to the Phoenix Open. It's as much fun at night as well for a whole lot of folks.
Yeah. It's really got a great reputation in that sense. All right, so the LIV Tour is trying to do the same thing with the music and that type of thing. They're trying to make it fun, but yet you have people that are not fans. I know you are not a fan, and that's okay. But where do you see the difference?
Well, fair enough, Dennis. There are different reasons why people may not be fans of LIV Golf. There is, the problems that Brandel Chambly has, and writer Eamon Lynch and some others about the regime that's funding LIV Golf.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have as big a problem with that. And so you can start there. The second aspect, the fun side of LIV Golf, I don't have any problem with that either. There are a lot of players that just never could get and understand the Phoenix Open, but there are a whole bunch of other players, the music, the yelling, the big crowds that thrive on it. That's for modern tastes and younger people and modern audiences, and not for the old stuffy purists.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with LIV Golf embracing those things and wanting to get the casual sports fan and the younger people involved. I'm really, really just fine with that. I can be as crusty and curmudgeonly as the next guy my age, but you look at the NFL. Just a couple of years ago, you score a touchdown and do some pre-planned routine to celebrate, and there comes the yellow flag.
Yeah.
Well, they eliminated those finally because the fans loved them.
Loved it.
They want to see those celebrations.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Dennis, tennis players through the 1930s at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open had to wear long pants, and the ladies were in flowing skirts. Am I bothered by facial hair and short pants and all of that? No, I'm not. Society changes, and all of that is acceptable to me for LIV Golf. And in that aspect, I'll grant, growing the game can encompass those elements. Nope, there are other reasons I'm not as big a fan of LIV Golf, but at least I'll give LIV Golf those points.
Yeah, well, that's fair. And as you know, LIV is coming to Las Vegas Super Bowl week. They're playing at Las Vegas Country Club. So if I invite you out, are you going to stay home or are you going to come and walk around with me?
No, man, I'm going to be home for Phoenix Open and Super Bowl party. But it's interesting. Yeah, it's unfortunate in a way to have the same weekend, two big tournaments in the desert.
I know.
Legendary Phoenix Open.
Yeah.
But then there was another tournament in the desert that used to get in the way quite regularly of the Phoenix Open, and that's the Dubai Desert Classic in the Middle East. And it rankled me and a bunch of others for years that Tiger Woods would take the appearance money
Right.
and go play in the Dubai
Right.
Desert Classic.
Right.
A handful of other players did too.
Yeah.
Dustin Johnson stopped playing the Phoenix Open because he just wasn't crazy about the environment. That's entirely his call. A few others would be regular visitors to that, and you'd be sitting there saying, wow, there are like 1,000 people watching in person in Dubai. And meanwhile, we have 120,000 people in Phoenix and Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Hey, come on.
Yeah.
But by the same token, the Phoenix Open still prospered. And we were like that little family in Whoville when the Grinch came and stole their Christmas. And they didn't care. Their presents were gone, but they sang and celebrated Christmas anyway. And that's how we feel in the Phoenix Open, is that you hope for the best field possible.
Sure.
And in recent years, you're still getting great fields. But Tiger Woods didn't have to come, and Dustin Johnson didn't have to come, and they still turn out in record numbers.
Right. Absolutely correct. Yeah, it's a wonderful tournament. People that play in it, I think, are helping themselves and stuff. Absolutely. Anyway, Joe Staba, we're going to take another, got a hard break. We're going to take another short commercial break. We come back, we will finish up with Joe and finish up the show. Got a few more questions for him, so stay with us. We are going to return, both of us.
As golfers, we want instant gratification when it comes to a better golf swing and playing better golf. Impossible, you say? Not anymore. Golf Boost Artificial Intelligence, AI, has developed and patented the most advanced swing analysis technology in golf. Simply, the algorithms detect your body position and then analyze your golf swing using their artificial intelligence technology. The AI captures all the relevant data from your swing video and then presents you a personalized lesson. Golf Boost AI is the ultimate swing analysis and virtual instruction system for golfers of all ages and abilities. This sophisticated software takes into consideration your height and build, playing level, and returns the ideal solution for your swing. Bottom line, Golf Boost AI is an incredibly convenient and cost-effective tool for golfers to improve their swing. Go to golfboost.com and check it out. The app is free to download and try. Visit golfboost.com today.
One of the perks about being in golf media is that I get to try every club ever made. Of course, like most things, some are better than others. I'm here to tell you that I have found unquestionably the absolute best performing set of irons I have ever played, and my scores show it. Let me introduce you to Grindworks, custom-fitted irons that are made to fit your game. Grindworks offers players 3 different styles of irons. You can choose muscle-back irons, cavity-back irons, and even blades, along with some awesome wedges. And when you purchase your clubs, Grindworks lets you choose the type of shaft you want, the type grip you prefer, and even will adjust the loft and lie of your clubs if needed. That's unheard of. So what are you waiting for? Feel the power and experience and performance of these amazing clubs. Simply go to grindworksusa.com or call 281-651-4046 to order. Trust me, your handicap will love you for it. We are back, absolutely correct. We're going to finish up with our special guest, golf journalist Joe Passov. Joe, one of the good things about the PGA Tour season starting again is, you know, it's another year of terrific tournaments. Some people like one tournament more than another tournament, but you've covered a hell of a lot of tournaments. You've covered a lot of majors. Tell us about that, number one, and what would be your favorite major, and what are the reasons why?
Wow, you threw me a good curveball there, Dennis. Yeah, the one I've been to the most, lucky enough to do 18 Masters.
Wow.
And I've done 14 US Opens, 7 Ryder Cups, and then a whole bunch of other majors and minors, regular PGA Tour events, great amateur events. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's the Masters.
Okay.
I love the spectacle of the Ryder Cup. Who doesn't?
Yeah, who doesn't? Yeah.
But there's an awkward truth to the Ryder Cup as a spectator, which is for the first 2 full days of the 3-day competition, there are only 4 matches going on at once. So if you're out there trying to follow the groups, it's really difficult. And if you're sitting in the stands watching them come by, it's just four groups.
Right.
And then you're done, And so I love the face painting and the flag waving and the cheering in the first tee environment. And there's something to be said about, the British Open or Open Championship being the oldest major.
Yeah.
And the US Open, our national championship. Props to the PGA Championship. It's really raised its game over the last 25 years. But the Masters is it. Without question, they have a year to get everything right. Mm-hmm. And because it's a private club who puts on the tournament, they don't have to answer to anybody else except themselves.
Right.
And they do everything right. From both how the media is treated to how the spectators, the patrons as they're called, and how the players. There's a tremendous emphasis on tradition, which you love, but they innovate every single year. Say what you want about some of the golf course changes over the years, but in terms of just being on the grounds, how excited you get to actually go back to the Masters, that's the one.
Yeah. Joe, when I went to Augusta for the first time, I was absolutely amazed. I thought I was looking at a different golf course. When you see it in person, as opposed to watching it on television, you get a sense of all the nuances of the golf course, the humps and bumps on the fairway. A lot of false fronts on the greens, and it just knocked me out. I said, "Boy, this is like a whole different golf course here," and it is. People just are into it. My personal favorite happens to be the Open. I've been fortunate enough to play several of the courses in the Rota, and appreciate it for what it is. And like I say, but all the majors are terrific. And I think you're right. The PGA Championship has pulled itself up by the bootstraps over the last several years, because that was the weak link, I think, in the majors. And speaking of that, what's your feelings on people that think the Tour Championship should be a 5th major? I think that's ridiculous. That's just my own opinion, though. But how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm with you, Dennis. The Tour Championship was created basically by Dean Beeman, just because we needed an exclamation point or a period to say the season is over, and just like in the other sports, we need a big wrap up.
Right.
Super Bowl.
Correct.
As
Super
opposed
Bowl, right.
to, the season would just kind of drift off with small tournaments. So I get why that was done, but, over time, it has to develop into something that everybody cares about, appointment TV viewing. And unfortunately, for me, the Tour Championship, it goes head-to-head with football, and that little tiny field and all of that. And I love Eastlake for its history, but it's nowhere near as dramatic as some of the other golf courses you could play it at. And so it just doesn't rise to that level. The Players Championship had a lot of votes as the quote 5th major, but 4 majors just has nice symmetry.
Yeah.
Better than 5. Let's just leave it alone at 4.
Yeah, it's easier to figure out throughout the year. You know what I mean? We know when it's coming and stuff, and I'm with you. But anyway, we're almost out of time. I want to find out what is in the cards for you coming up. You have any special projects you're doing? I know you're not doing as much traveling, So what's going on with Joe Passov? What's going on in your life
Hey,
professionally?
it's Dennis. Thanks. Yeah, it's still all good, all busy. Um, Doing a lot of writing for the magazine that I once edited, Links Magazine. I co-host their podcast and and write for the digital newsletter, do print stories, and that's still fun. I from time to time will write for a number of other publications from the Wall
Yeah,
Street Journal, Sports Illustrated, but
yeah,
also my home turf, the Arizona Golf Association,
right, right.
and then my special friends in Southern California for magazine. Um, Also, I love the club anniversary book deals because I love having people tell their stories about the places they love. So I'm finishing up one right now for a great club in Southern California, and still doing a little bit of golf travel. Looking forward to going out to Bandon Dunes this October.
Nice, nice, very nice. As far as the books, Joe, are they still available? Where can viewers get them? And I highly
Well,
suggest you get them.
thank you. No, I haven't. I don't think I've done one of those in a little while. These are more private publications for private clubs.
Okay,
So they're only available to the members.
okay.
But I did finish up one this spring for the Dunes Golf and Beach Club in Myrtle Beach. I believe they might have some for sale, so to speak, if you visit there. And they're hosting a PGA Tour event in May, opposite the Wells Fargo. But yeah, it would be fun to have a few books on the bookshelves or available by Amazon. But right now, these
Yeah,
are just celebrations for different clubs on what's gone on in their 75 or 100 years.
that's great. That is absolutely awesome. Well, you're a credit to the business. Your work has been great throughout a lot of years. A lot of people recognize that. We appreciate the time that you've spent with us and your insight, which is always great. And we want to have you back sooner than later, Joe.
Well, Dennis, very much appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to do. And, you know, for a guy, you and I go back a ways in the business, a lot of experience. So we have a lot of memories, a lot
Yeah,
to talk about.
yeah, we do. And when I get out your way, you are close to the boulders.
I am about an 8-minute ride to the
Yeah,
boulders.
you are
Yep.
close. And Donald Crawley's a good friend of mine. He's been teaching out there a long time. I owe him
Yep.
a visit. And if I get out there, I'm going to get a hold of you and stop by for a cup of coffee on the way there. And it'd be great. We get out and tee it up maybe, and it'd be a lot of fun.
Definitely, Dennis. I look forward to it.
I appreciate it. Joe, Happy New Year to you and your family. I look forward to you having a great year. Appreciate your time, and we will be in touch soon.
Excellent. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Joe Passov, everybody, great journalist, and has got a great insight on a lot of things in the game. All right, we're going to wrap up the show. We're going to bring you another edition of the Golf Minute that I do that runs on 8 News Now. And hopefully it's going to help your game. It has been helping mine so far. So take a look at this. Hi, I'm Dennis Silvers for 8 News Now, here with another Golf Minute. I'm with Karen Dunphy, longtime LPGA teaching professional out here at Las Vegas National. And Karen, every golfer has played into the wind and they want to hit the ball low, but they have problems. What's the best way to do it?
So when you swing hard at a ball and you hit it hard, the spin rate on the ball makes the ball curve upwards. So we want to be able to make our full swing, maybe add another club. So instead of hitting an 8-iron, I'll drop down and hit a 7-iron, take dead aim, and make sure that I just let that air out because I don't want any tension if I'm going to swing easy. Go back nice and slow. And hit the ball nice and low.
You make the tip look really, really easy, and it's not even breezy here. For the Golf Minute, I'm Dennis Silvers. We'll see you back next time. So long. All right, that was a great tip. She's a very good teacher, and she's got a great sense of humor. And that's going to wrap it up. We hope you get out in your part and be able to play some golf instead of this cold, windy, rainy weather. So we're waiting for that to pass by. Anyway, next week on the show, we've got a real icon in the game of golf. They call him Mr. 59, Mr. Al Geiberger is going to be with us. Just a great gentleman. He's 86 years of age, still sharp, and really looking forward to it. So make sure you check in with us, same place, same time next week. So until then, so long, everybody.